can see you down again, falling to the ground again. I feel you. Try to fight it on your own. I'll help you light your fire. I'll take your hand, raise you up higher. You can dare to live. Stand up, be the hero you need, the dreamer you dreamed of. Speak up, scream in the mirror. You're free, you're free, you're free now. Light up, you can feel the heat of the spark, the beat of your heart. You can dare to live, dare to live again. Goodbye to the misery. Write another better history. You're fearless. Even fear's afraid of you. I won't let you turn back now. Even if you're down and now you're healing. And I'm here. I'll help you light your fire. I'll take your hand, raise you up higher. You can dare to live. Stand up, be the hero you need, the dreamer you dreamed of. Speak up, scream in the mirror. You're free, you're free, you're free now. Light up, you can feel the heat of the spark, the beat of your heart. You can dare to live
Good morning. What another wonderful set of highlights to show all of our festivity and fun yesterday. If you want to see more of that, join our YouTube page, Transplant Life Foundation YouTube, and you can see all the fun from this week. But enough about the fun this week. Let's talk about the fun this morning with Kevin Lee. Thank you so much for joining. You are the president and CEO of Mid-America Transplant, one of the premier OPOs in the United States. So I'm so glad I get a chance to speak with you, talk with you this morning, learn a little bit about you. We're already talking about Michigan State, go green, and your background, but let's just jump right into it. You are such a fantastic person. So many people rave about you and your leadership. So I would love to hear about how you got started in the transplant community, who you are as a person and your journey really in this space. Everyone has a story to tell, and I'd love to hear yours.
Sure. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be with you this morning. It's exciting to be here at the Transplant Games. There's so much energy. It's like a recharge to be here with so many people in such a positive environment who are all just supporting and affirming each other. So it's great to be here. I've been with Mid-America Transplant since 2015.
Oh, wow.
And I really came to know the organization through the loss of a very close friend. My wife and I were friends with Russ, my wife for 20 years, me for 18 years, and Russ became a cornea and tissue donor in early 2015. And I'd previously heard about the work of Mid-America Transplant through a colleague of mine at a previous position and just continued to do research, but then became more emotionally invested in the mission when Russ passed, and was fortunate to be selected to join the team in late 2015. And it's a privilege to serve this mission each and every day, and to walk with donor families, to serve those on the transplant waiting list, to be a voice for the voiceless, but also to work with really phenomenal people. We have been really fortunate to work and have committed individuals at Mid-America Transplant who live our mission each and every day, and so it's my honor to serve with them.
I love that. It's so interesting to hear how people bring people to transplant, and how even just their small gift, whether they meant to or not, whether that was their wishes or their loved ones' wishes, whether they're living or deceased, just it pulls you in, and you can't get away from it. You just feel this calling to be here immediately. And it's so inspiring to see that now you've taken that as your passion and your purpose in life, not just outside of work, but in your everyday work. What does that mean to you almost 10 years later to continue, in some ways, living out Russ's legacy?
Yeah, it's really motivating.
Yeah.
It's really easy
imagine.
to get up each and every day and to be super focused on what we're doing in our region, in our community, across the nation. And it's really hard to describe when your work and your life
Or one.
Yeah. So I have boundary issues.
Yeah. I think all of us do if you're in transplant.
I think so as well. I have to be reminded at certain holiday functions that we're not going to just talk about organ and tissue donation, that we're going to talk about a few other things like Cardinals baseball.
Hey, you can mix that in.
Kids and a few other things.
Yeah.
We don't want to see anybody's driver's license.
Don't be checking at the door.
Right. So, but it's really an honor and a privilege each and every day. And one of the things that I was told by our founding board chair when I was brought on board in late 2015 is that we are public servants working for the public good. Mm-hmm. I think if we hold that mindset tightly, that we're public servants, we serve, in our case at Mid-America Transplant, 4.7 million people in 84 counties. But really, we're serving now with the changes in allocation, everyone waiting in a 250 or 500 nautical mile radius. We're serving those individuals and their families and everybody they come into contact with. So it's a tremendous honor, and it's a privilege. It's a responsibility. And it's just fantastic.
Perfect. That's how Russ would want it.
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing. So you just spoke about the 4.7 million people across, let me get this right, Eastern Missouri, Southern Illinois, and Northwest Arkansas. What makes Mid-America Transplant so special? What makes the community special and the staff so special to serve these 4.7 people every single day, whether they know it or not?
Well, I think when we look back since our founding in 1986 as Mid-America Transplant, previously in 74, the Missouri Kidney Program. So we've got a 50-year history this year.
Oh, yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. It's really been about relationships for us, and how do we form relationships in our community to really advance the mission of donation and transplantation. And so we've been an early adopter of the Baldrige criteria at Mid-America Transplant, and through that process, that 20-year journey, we've come to view the different stakeholders in our community maybe differently. We really view our donor families as our collaborators. I'm sure you've heard it all begins with yes. And so without that collaboration of the donor family, we're not really able to move forward with donation and subsequently transplantation. And then we view the hospitals and the nurses and the physicians that work at those hospitals in our 84 counties as our partners, and then the transplant centers really as our customers. And so how are we talking to the transplant centers about what their needs are? What are they looking for? How do we support them so that they can support the patients that are on their list? But also talking to our community hospitals regularly about what are we doing to support their nurses and their physician staff, to support donor families and really walk with them. And that relationship piece is really important because you're not at your best each and every day.
Yeah. We're humans still.
We're humans.
Yep. It's never going to go away.
It's not.
No.
And so we want to build that level of trust that when we're not having our best day, that we can still come together, walk through this, learn from it, and honor a family and an individual's wish to save and heal lives of complete strangers. Which is really that ripple effect, which we talk a lot about here at the Transplant Games. It's really the best of humanity. It's really what makes our nation great, to think about strangers supporting complete strangers.
You don't really ever see that in any other sector of the U.S. You don't, on a regular basis at least. This is such a consistent stranger to stranger interaction.
We had the privilege, I've had the privilege, I call him a friend, Steve Cookson's a retired state senator former high school principal in Poplar Bluff, Missouri, and he talked about heroes in 3 categories: first responders, veterans, and organ and tissue donations, because they sacrificed their life for a complete stranger. And I've really taken Steve's words to heart. Steve's a liver recipient, and those words really motivate me each and every day to think about it in that category.
Absolutely. And I think we see that at the games here too, with the veterans field that we do, and we've had first responders highlighted quite a few years, but it is really cool to hear about that in those 3 categories. And it's that 3rd category that we're trying to shout so desperately out to the rest of the nation. How does MedAmerica work on the community involvement? How do you get the word out about the importance of organ, eye, and tissue donation?
Well, it's really about sharing stories, which is the theme of this transplant games. And how are we growing in our ability to share those stories so that people really understand the benefits? And that's a learning process for us each and every day. And how are we doing that in particular with rural communities, but also communities of color as well? And so I really have to give credit to my predecessor in the CEO role, Diane Brockmeyer, who was with the organization since 1986. She became the second CEO in 2016. And she really set about evolving our board to really reflect our community, and really looking at the board composition, not only our parent board, our medical advisory board, and then our foundation board, to ensure that we reflected the community that we served, so that we understand the community that we served, and really moved us away from a model of registry drive to creating longer relationships, long-term relationships, in the community, and listening to what people really need. And so having a better understanding, it's not just about driving registry, it's really about preventative health. How are we partnering with other organizations like the American Liver Foundation or the National Kidney Foundation? Because what's better than getting a life-saving organ transplant is not needing one.
Exactly.
And so how do we keep people off of that list and work upstream? And so we've got a number of projects and initiatives with partners in the community that we're particularly proud about. One is with St. Louis University and Dr. Krista Lentine around the presence of apolipoprotein 1. The presence, many of us have one risk allele for apolipoprotein 1 or APOL1. You say that so well,
by the way.
Thank you.
Very impressive.
Don't ask
me to say that again.
A lot of practice. But if you have the second risk allele, that is a precursor for hypertension and potentially end-stage renal disease. In 98% of the individuals who have that second risk allele are African-American men. And so working with Dr. Lentine at SSM, St. Louis University Hospital, she's working with primary care practices to identify individuals who might be at risk for the second risk allele, doing that testing in advance through support of our foundation, and then having them work with a genetic counselor because it could be prevalent in their family. So how do we get 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years upstream to try and prevent individuals from needing a transplant as well, and trying to think about that. Now, the challenge is that's a small sample set. Now, how do we grow that? And we're working on that. We're not perfect. We're a growing organization, and so we're excited about the future, and that growth is part of it.
I love hearing that. I think American medicine, I talked a lot about this yesterday with Dr. Heienberger, and she tended to agree. It was both America as well as most of Europe. We're not preventative. We're more Band-Aid medicine. And we're really good at that. We're really good at solving the problem after the fact rather than preventing the problem from happening. What other, especially in terms of racial disparities and inequality, what is MidAmerica seeing as other obstacles for the Black community, Hispanic communities of color when it comes to either accessing, obtaining information on transplantation, or just having any understanding of what this world is like before they get thrusted into it?
I think for us, especially working with the African American community in St. Louis, we need to continue to build trust for the healthcare system, that healthcare system is really serving the community. We've
seen that too on the foundation side.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
understandably so. There is years of mistrust and reasons why there isn't any anymore.
It's very understandable. Yep. The ability to have those direct conversations with community leaders and hospital leaders, we find I find to be very positive, that we know systematically we have to develop this level of trust so that people understand the benefits of donation in their own community. And we also hear that in rural parts of our service area too, is, Kevin, everything goes to the big metropolitan service areas, which
we have
in our
nothing
region,
here.
Right. It's in St. Louis. And so what stories are you telling in the Boot Heel and Sykeston and Poplar Bluff about the benefits and people who have received these gifts, so we understand how it comes full circle for us as well? And that is a very long process. It takes a lot of intentionality. We are not sprinting at this. We have to really take that marathon approach to building those relationships.
To getting there.
I would have to say that having a board that reflects our community is fantastic from a governance perspective, because they're challenging us as a leadership team
I love that.
to do better, to be better. To show up.
Yeah.
And they're identifying opportunities. And I really think that's where governance is at its finest, is when your governance structure is supporting the organization, but challenging us to grow in service to our community.
Yep.
And so board meetings are usually pretty lively, especially on the foundation side.
Probably a little long too.
Well, they can be. Yeah, they can be. We try to hold them to the agenda, but I think they're energizing and they really help shape our strategy.
You're not a good leader if you're not getting pushback. If you're not getting, hey, let's try it this way. Hey, let's do it this way. Hey, have you thought about this? Because you're not, then everyone's just staying stagnant, and there's no skin in the game, so to speak, if they don't feel compelled to speak up. Not that anyone's doing anything wrong, but there's at least that we can still do better. And it sounds like that you've really fostered that community and carried that on with the board.
We've been very fortunate to have really committed board members. Some of them have been touched by donation and transplantation. Others are really committed to the community as a whole. We've really been selective in trying to find people in preventative health spaces and also faith-based communities who are really challenging us to think differently. And there are several examples. One is we've not necessarily stepped into healthy food and healthy living in intentional ways and really addressing food deserts, but with public health representation, faith-based representation on that board, we're having to rethink that strategy. The viewers can't see it, but over my right shoulder is a display about long-term medical housing.
It's very beautiful, by the way, and informative.
That was really a challenge from our board to think about for people from rural communities that have to relocate to St. Louis while they wait for or recover from a life-saving gift. They can't afford a second household. And so what are we doing as an organization to really support them to make sure that there's equitable access? And that's been really inspiring for us to think of ways to serve the community better. And so, as Julie Walton, my colleague, will tell you, we've supported recipients from over 40 states now. Wow. And that's really motivating for us as well, and that people are relocating to St. Louis for world-class medicine. As you described at the top of this interview, we are in Southern Illinois, Eastern Missouri, Northeast Arkansas.
Yeah, we're in a lot of places.
And that's often, if this was a country music song, be called Flyover Country. And it's really important, though, in these communities that transplant be accessible.
Otherwise, they don't stand a chance.
They don't.
No.
And so it's great that we have phenomenal centers in Nashville, and we have phenomenal centers in Chicago and Dallas, but we have phenomenal transplant centers in St. Louis, and we want to make sure they're strong so that these 84 counties have the opportunity, if needed, hopefully not if needed, to experience world-class medicine close to home.
I love that. That means so much, I think, to people, whether they have to experience it or not, to know that there's an option for them, and that it's not in the LAs or the New Yorks or the Floridas, or it seems far and big and unfamiliar. And that's it too. There's this whole emotional side of transplant that we don't tend to put to the side, but it's the last piece. And so if you're not emotionally ready, emotionally secure, emotionally confident, the chances that your transplant journey is more difficult are just so much higher. Because our bodies speak so well to our emotional state, not just our physical ailments. And so to be able to provide that means a lot, I know, to the families, especially the family members who are watching their loved one experience this, for lack of a better word, pretty traumatic experience.
It's major surgery.
Yeah, it's a life-saving surgery, but there's a lot of other parts that come with it that aren't as shiny and beautiful as that new gift of life can be.
And we really tie that back to our core value of stewardship, is how are we helping the recipient and their family steward this life-saving gift? And so that's really part of our commitment back to the donor family, is that when they entrust us with a yes, what are we doing to ensure that those gifts, those organs, tissues, corneas, have every opportunity to be successful in that new recipient?
I love that. That's the way it should be. And you guys are definitely one of the leaders in that. And talking about leadership, there's been a lot of change in the OPO world in the last few years. A lot going on, a lot of commotion. Can you speak to what the future of the OPO landscape looks like and what the OPOs are looking to achieve to continue to better serve, to continue to store those great gifts of life for the donor families and really help get that list knocked down more and more?
I think if you look nationally and the numbers support this, whether it's from the OPTN website or the HRSA website, that donation continues to increase year over year. So we know that Mid-America Transplant and our other OPO colleagues are continuing to approach more families, to offer donation to more families, and that more families are saying yes than ever before. And so I think that's really exciting as we think about what the possibilities are. It's very motivating when we think about the advances in perfusion technology, whether it's in the body or through machine perfusing outside of the body, to think through statements that have been shared at national conferences recently that we have the possibility of ending the liver wait list.
Love that.
And so to think about how OPOs continue to collaborate in a changing landscape is very motivating, and there's still a lot of collaboration that exists within our industry to really drive donation and transplantation, ensure that everyone has that opportunity. I think a little example for us recently on May 31st, we had the honor of supporting Mr. Allen out of Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Mr. Allen was 98 years old, and he was in his yard picking up debris after a storm and slipped. And he became, on May 31st, the oldest organ donor in U.S. history when his liver was successfully transplanted at the University of Florida. And those are details that the family has shared. And so to think about the fact that the team at the University of Florida had the ability to come up and to recover that liver and to have it successfully transplanted, and it's our understanding that the recipient is doing well and has expressed an interest in meeting Mr. Allen's family.
Oh, I love that.
But you think about the advances in technology that are
huge. It would have not happened possible 10 years ago even.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. And so that's incredibly exciting. And a lot of that growth is really donation after cardiac death or DCD donation as well. And so families are saying yes at high rates to that, and it's really moving.
I love that. Wow. That's just so remarkable and gave me chills too, because I think we think of donation in such a specific way so often, and we kind of discount the advances medicine has made, because we all feel so passionate about transplantation. We want it to be sped up. We want it to get more off the list, but that gives me such hope that, you know, moment by moment, day by day, we're getting closer and closer to achieving more. And we're seeing that through all these medical advances that you talked about, just the perfusion, DCD, all of that is just getting us one step closer. Talking yesterday with Dr. Heenberg about pigs and how interesting and relevant they're becoming.
Yeah,
and
especially
understanding,
here at UAB.
Yes, and understanding how, while we are very different from pigs, that there is a lot that they can provide to us in learning how to better transplant and also using their organs to achieve that. So with all the excitement that's happening in the OPO world and transplantation, with someone as experienced and seasoned as you, in closing, I'd just love to hear what, we talked about a lot of cool things. What excites you the most about transplantation? What are you looking forward to seeing us really capitalize in this community and grow with? Big question.
Big question. Yeah.
A lot of possibilities.
It's a lot of possibilities. We've already talked about machine perfusion. Yeah. You've brought up xenotransplantation. I think what I continue to be motivated by each and every day is not only the families that say yes on their worst day, but I would have to end by saying we're very motivated by nurses who still make that call.
I love that. My mom's a nurse, a transplant nurse. Yep. Yes.
So in 1986, really when Mid-America Transplant in its current form came to be, it all began when a nurse picks up a phone and makes that call. And that's really largely, there is some automation there that's moving forward in different pockets in the U.S., but largely nurses are the critical link in this, and nurses make it happen.
Yeah.
And so we can't forget that it's really about the relationship with the donor family. It's about the relationship with the nursing staff and the physician staff. It's about the relationship with the recipients as well. But we can't do it without nurses. We can't do it, obviously, without donor families, but nurses are so critical to us.
Love that.
And so how do we support them? How do we lift them up? How do we bring them into this community more fully? I think that's a challenge that we need to accept and step into.
I love that. It's a perfect answer and a unique one that I think is just very important to the whole process, because they, as much as the donor families are important, like you said, they're that catalyst. They're the ones identifying and understanding. And if they're not educated and even inspired by this whole community, then we don't even get to begin those processes.
Nurses move mountains.
They do. They absolutely do. Well, thank you so much. This is so exciting. I love hearing from you. You're such, really, truly such a spark for this community. And you continue to, I see, innovate and really challenge other OPOs, especially to carry the torch in the way that Mid-America does. So I appreciate your time, all your care, and your constant support for the games. You guys have been wonderful over all these years and working with us. And we just hope that we get to continue to tackle this problem more together and get that list down to, maybe next time we talk, there'll be a couple thousand more off that list.
Absolutely.
And we'll be talking about some other new innovation that transplantation's brought to us and what that means for the community.
Sounds good. Appreciate the opportunity.
Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you all being here today. We will see you next time.